Super Metroid. It's a game, you know, did some neat things, lots of praise and awards. Nah, that's underselling it. This isn't Metroid Prime Trilogy Collection. Its legacy is so great that a lot of people claim it's the greatest game of all time. And you know what? It is awesome. Super tight controls, fantastic environments, a badass arsenal of power-ups. Oh, and one of the greatest soundtracks ever. And yeah, even though it was the beginning of Metroid for so many people, I didn't get around to experiencing it until just a few years ago. Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with me either. Instead, my starting point was Metroid Prime, Retro's seminal work and the 3D jump for the series. Sporting its own great controls, environments, and music, only now with a massive perspective change, it's legendary in its own right. It redefined what a first-person shooter could be, and took the series in a totally new direction. Hell, I've already made a video about it. Sell out with me. Here's the thing though, I had no reference to anything Metroid before I played Prime. No, I kid you not, I knew very little about the series and decided to give Metroid Prime a whirl because it looked cool. We all gotta start somewhere, right? However, this made Super Metroid quite the interesting experience for me. It was kind of an eye-opener to play the game that not only expanded upon everything the original started, but inspired the game that started it all for me. So, I want to look at Super Metroid and the cool things it did in a bid to see how it inspired my first dance with Samus all those years ago. Except we didn't dance. We blew a lot of stuff up. So, collectibles. Even if you don't partake in searching through every perfectly sized morph ball passage, which, by the way, never ceases to be amusing, it's undeniable they're a huge part of Metroid. Missiles, bombs, bigger missiles, bigger bombs. And yeah, that's about it. Now, in Super Metroid, you don't exactly have a lot of clues as to where all this extra ammo is at. Upon entering a room, you can check your map to see if there's a dot, but that doesn't always mean there's something hidden away. Game. This is just a save room. So if you want to get to those pesky upgrades, you've got a couple of options. Once you get it, you can use the X-ray scope to scan around for some clues, which, despite being slightly tedious, does make hidden paths and blocks very clear. Or, if you're feeling adventurous, you can morph ball around every which way from the start, laying bombs like a madman. Mad woman? Whatever, doesn't matter either way. No matter how you go about it though, you'll find these gray blocks all over the place that clue you into how to actually find something new. And luckily you're taught early on that it's important to constantly survey your surroundings, as it goes beyond simply finding upgrades. Sometimes even finding the right way forward is going to require a little searching and bombing. And while this is pretty neat in premise, it's given me a little bit of a different eye on Metroid Prime. Now, one such aspect from Prime that received my praise was the scan visor. One of its big purposes revolves around giving you, the player, the ability to learn more about the planet you're exploring and just what the heck those dastardly space pirates are up to this time. Which you'd think they'd give up at this point with the number of times they've been foiled. But like any good villain, they just keep walking back into our lives to get roughed up again. Or, you know, shot to pieces. Same thing. However, the scan visor also has another neat aspect to all this information gathering. See, with the step up to 3D and the first person, we also had a huge graphical jump. Seriously, the level of detail that went into every area of Metroid Prime is still impressive. This also means potential obstacles for advancement or goodie grabbing are much more distinct. Instead of a wall being colored slightly differently, we get a big knot in a tree that we can scan. And when we do, what do we find? Well, it's made out of cordite, which we are told could be destroyed with a strong blast. Upon revisiting the spot and giving it a little taste of our good buddy, the Super Missile, we see there was an expansion waiting patiently for our arrival. And once you've made these connections, you'll know for the rest of the game. So, when you scan something new and it tells you it's the same structurally as something you've seen before, well, just go to town, you know what to do. So what's the point of all this? Well, upon playing Super Metroid, I realized Retro had actually adopted much of the same philosophy to discovering new routes or secrets. Super Metroid did what it could to clue you in the right direction, using differences in its color palette and clear symbols to highlight something different, at which point you can put your arsenal of tools to good use. And sure, it definitely has some tedious challenges. Seriously, I spent way too much time getting some of these missile expansions. And here we go! Damn it. And here we go. Oh, come on! No, it went away? No! Come on. overall, Super Metroid, for the time at least, did a good job of cluing players into how you go about a little progressing and collecting. Prime does the same, but only in a more visually stimulating manner, with its viewpoint giving players the opportunity to revisit the basic scanning idea. Only now there's more detail. With the first-person perspective providing more control for viewing surroundings, it's just a bit easier to take a look around in an effort to spot something interesting. And once you do, the same connections are made. This all comes together to make a game that not only makes its collectibles and secrets a bit easier to uncover, but more intuitive. And hey, in spite of some people disliking its inclusion to Metroid Prime, scanning really wasn't a new feature at all. A new viewpoint and much more powerful assets finally allowed the original idea to come into its own. With no knowledge of Super Metroid prior to playing it, or even the series in general outside of the Prime games for that matter, it was pretty eye-opening to make these connections, and it's awesome that Retro's idea was actually rooted somewhere in its older sibling. See, you really can learn from your elders, kids. Speaking of learning, one of the hallmarks of the Metroid series is its tone and atmosphere, and that sense of loneliness you find is powerful and pervasive in Metroid Prime. Retro knew what was up and crafted everything for an immersive experience. Upon playing Super Metroid so many years later, I was startled by just how potent its own atmosphere is, and quickly recognized where Prime was drawing from at times. I mean, come on, this is a Super Nintendo game, and yet it at times outclasses its newer siblings. Dank caves, dilapidated tech, brooding colors. From the start, the game sets such an oppressive tone, and yet it's so inviting. I can distinctly remember being drawn in by that moody Lower Brinstar theme in Metroid Prime 2. The way it drones in and out, heavy and almost ethereal, it matches the watery depths of Torvus's underworld so well. Then what do I find years later upon playing Super Metroid? Oh, what do you know, they took it from this game and updated it. Running around Lower Brinstar, with that theme sitting in the background? Gaming bliss, my friends. The fact that Super Metroid is almost as old as I am, yet is still more captivating and atmospheric than many modern games is just amazing. Wait a minute. Damn. I really am getting old. One area in which Super Metroid surprisingly doesn't show its age is its gameplay. Jumping is nice and precise, but has this small touch of floatiness about it that provides room for mistakes. Aiming and shooting is a breeze as well, and unless you're trying to do some crazy stuff, there's never a moment that's gonna frustrate the hell out of you. Okay, that's a lie. Wall jumping kinda sucks. Like I said before though, my experience with the series started with Metroid Prime, which is so different and so much more complex than Super Metroid that there's almost no comparison. That being said though, let's dig into this a little bit. Metroid Prime doesn't allow much room for speed with its viewpoint when it comes to general movement. I mean, you certainly don't feel slow, walking from place to place isn't tedious, and despite some fears, platforming is mostly a joy. However, it made Super so surprising. Speed! I mean, seriously, it's not to say you don't feel strong in the Prime trilogy, especially as you gain more abilities. It's got conveyance on lock, but Samus is a damn powerhouse in Super. Even before you acquire the speed booster, her sprinting speed is kinda terrifying. That is one person I do not want to get in the way of. And what about her insane jumping prowess? The space jump boots are cool in Metroid Prime, but high jump combined with some flipping and I'm ready to go. Add in the speed booster and you're a one-woman spinning death machine. More than anything though, I simply love how it feels to play Super Metroid. I know it's sort of this elusive topic to talk about, but Super Metroid has supreme game feel. This goes beyond the controls being responsive and fluid. There's the visuals, the music, and what about all those punchy sound effects? There's the echoes of your beams as you unleash shot after shot. Then you've got enemies exploding upon death to great effect. There's even the sound and after images of the speed boost and shine spark, which all put together make you feel even more powerful. And again, this was on the freaking Super Nintendo. Dang. Now, I honestly don't know what to make of this because both styles are so different. Combat in the Prime games generally feels better and is more intense thanks to its viewpoint. Locking onto enemies is simple, and dashing around provides a lot of speed and added energy to combat that a 2D game like Super Metroid simply can't have. While I grew up with Prime and enjoy its movement, I'm more inclined at times to go back to the style of Super, as it just feels so damn good to sprint along and crush everything in your path. Both games have their specific strengths and weaknesses, and several years later it's clear that this deliberate shift dramatically changed everything. I wouldn't have been surprised at all if classic Metroid fans didn't enjoy Prime as a result. Despite their similar setups, they both end up being quite different, yet distinctly Metroid. While I'm sure it's divisive for some, I happen to really love both styles. No doubt though, Super Metroid was contextually important, building off the uniqueness and success provided by the original, and helping to push Nintendo to all new heights. But even beyond its importance importance in Nintendo's history. It still holds up. Controls, art direction, music. There's a ton of little details that only help to make the game that much better, too. For example, when you fight Dragon in Meridia, if you get picked up by it and latch onto a broken turret nearby, you can electrocute the hulking beast without even firing a shot. How freaking cool is that? So just go play Super Metroid and enjoy it and appreciate it, and then go play Metroid Prime and come to your own conclusions. You know, I didn't really need an excuse to make a video about Super Metroid because it's, I mean, come on, it's freaking Super Metroid. But really, I just wanted to make some comparisons to just see, you know, what we can learn from these games. Where did the games we like so much come from? And maybe what did the original ones do so well? I mean, they're not famous and well-loved for no reason. But, you know, I'm no expert. Go play them for yourselves. Just do as I tell you. Make your own conclusions. And then tell me what you find. Because, yeah, I'm kind of a dummy, really. Before you go though, if you liked this video, why not leave a like? It only takes a couple seconds and can really help me out. And if you want to see more of what I do, then hey, why not subscribe? Anyway, I'm gonna go play some other stuff now. There's gonna be demons and bats and stuff. Now where did I leave that specially made evil killing whip?